What's the purpose of this trip?
Well, Papua New Guinea is the only country where we have this type of engagement, like multiple ministers sitting down with their counterpart in this ministerial forum. And as you said in your introduction, this is one of the most senior delegations Australia has ever sent, with a number of cabinet ministers and ministers who work in areas that are relevant to the Pacific. So it's very important because this is our closest neighbour. We have a long-standing history with Papua New Guinea, and Papua New Guinea's stability and security is good for Australia, it's good for Papua New Guinea, and it's also good for the region.
Last year, the Prime Minister James Marape said that PNG was caught in a confluence of interests in the region, and we know there are competing interests and competing demands for attention in the Pacific. How is Australia faring in terms of our relationship with PNG, given China's influence in the region?
Look, I said a few days ago that we are in a state of permanent contest in the Pacific, and I meant it. The ability to be, or the opportunity to be the only partner of choice was lost under Peter Dutton and the Liberals. We are now in a permanent contest, and what we have to do to assure Australia's interests is to keep engaging with Papua New Guinea and other members of the Pacific Islands Forum to keep ensuring we work with them to assure their security needs, because our view, as is the view of the leaders of the Pacific, is that if security is provided within the Pacific family, on that path is security and stability for all.
We saw a devastating toll from that landslide a few weeks ago, and I know Australia offered a lot of support after that event. Will you be able to speak to communities affected and have a look at some of the aid that's gone in that region?
Look, I hope so. We are going to Inga province today, which is where this horrific landslide occurred. As you said, we offered support immediately. We provided an initial $2.5 million in humanitarian assistance. We've sent a team in to assess damage and to give the advice to the Papua New Guinean government about the extent of the damage and risk and what more needs to be done. But there is a lot of rebuilding, potentially relocation, which will have to occur. And what I said to Prime Minister Marape last night at dinner is that we will work with them on working out how we provide the solutions and the assistance to the people of this province and this village. Our condolences go to all those who've lost someone, and there have been many people who have been grieving for weeks now.
Penny Wong, Peter Dutton says his plan towards nuclear energy in Australia is a pragmatic solution to keep the lights on. What's your assessment?
It's a risky and expensive gamble that won't work. I mean, that's the reality. I mean, this is decades of subsidy from Australians on, infrastructure and technology we don't have in order to deliver higher electricity prices. We've seen what happens when the coalition, does this. They are so allergic to renewables. We saw under them power exit the system because they gave the private sector no certainty. No one was investing in energy, and now he wants to delay for decades and ensure that taxpayers stump up the money to build these plants. It's just risky, expensive, and it won't work.
Peter Dutton points to countries like France. I believe France is using about 70% of its energy mix from nuclear alongside renewables. He says that's an example for Australia to move towards our commitment to meet those 2050 targets. What do you make of that?
Well, I'd say to him that France has had nuclear energy for a very, very long time. The problem we have here is, and this is, I know this has been an obsession of the coalition for decades. John Howard commissioned a study to look at nuclear power. And it was found to be many decades of subsidy from taxpayers before you'd actually get anything. And even then it would be the most expensive form of power, leaving aside all of the risks that people are concerned about. So yet again we see Peter Dutton putting up something that is not going to help Australian households, which won't deliver power in any time frame that matters, and will deliver more expensive power after people have had to subsidise it for decades. So I just think this really is no plan. Worse than no plan, actually. It's a risky gamble from Peter Dutton.
Let's go to Gaza, where the UN has reconfirmed that it is the most dangerous place in the world to be an aid worker. Hundreds of thousands of people facing famine conditions. Do you continue to have a dialogue with the Israeli government about your concerns about the way in which this conflict is being carried out?
We've been very clear about our position. Whether it's in our engagement with Israel, whether it's in our voting position in the United Nations, whether it's in my public statements or the Prime Minister's public statements, we've been very clear. And what I say is this: President Biden has put out a ceasefire plan. That all parties should agree to it. We should have a ceasefire. Hostages should be released. Aid should flow, and civilians should be protected. The cost of this conflict has been catastrophic, and what is occurring in Gaza is horrific, and we have to find a pathway out. The American president has put on the table a pathway out, and all parties should back it in.